Hi, welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV's Shark Tank After Show. We will be discussing Season 8, Episode 13 already. PDX Pet Design, Basic Outfitters, Victory Coffees, Naturally Perfect Dolls. We'll have an update on Drain Strain, and we have a special guest tonight in with us on Skype from NutriBox, Geoffrey Woo, who you might remember from a few weeks ago. Don't go away.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Woohoo! All right.
I love that we were all buzzing.
We are all buzzing.
We are buzzing because we're so excited to be back. We've been gone a few weeks now.
Yes, thank you for being here with us once again, because without you, we wouldn't exist.
Well, we wouldn't exist right here.
We would exist as far as molecular matter.
But no, because the observer always affects that which is observed, and an atom doesn't exist until we look for it to exist through a high-powered microscope.
So basically, if you would like to contemplate that tonight, have a great time. I am Zoe Hewitt. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zoe Said What. That's Zoe Said What. And sitting directly to my left is possibly a piece of an atom and possibly not.
Only if observed.
Only if observed, right? So what you see is what you get. Hi, I'm Chris Howard, and you can reach me at Chris Howard Live on both Twitter as well as Instagram. And I am surrounded by lovely women, but the only one who has yet to be introduced is sitting right to my left. She works hard, she plays hard, but best of all, she stays up all night putting out good media and content. This is Constance Dunn.
Thank you so much, Chris Howard. Yes, Constance Dunn. Join me on Instagram or Twitter at Constance Dunn.
Now that those intros are done for who's in studio, like we mentioned, we have Geoffrey Woo, who is joining us via Skype tonight since he's not in LA. And he is from NutriBox, if you remember a few episodes ago. And those are the chewable coffee cubes, the Go Cubes, that are healthier than drinking coffee. Each cube contains about the same amount of caffeine as half a cup of coffee. So you can take these and chew them on the go. So, Geoffrey, what has life been like since your episode aired?
Thanks for having me. It was a big spike of attention, but honestly, it's business as usual. One good story is that I did have a fan who was on a plane, and people sort of spotted me and go, "Hey, were you the chewable coffee cube guy?" I was like, "Yes, that is right." But honestly, being an entrepreneur and building a business, obviously that kind of exposure and platform is huge. But the nitty-gritty of the business is just unglamorous, just, working every day.
So remind me, how long have you been in business with this product?
So NutriBox as a whole has been in business we started the company in July 2014. So we've been around for 2.5 years now. And Go Cubes, the chewable coffee product that was featured on Shark Tank, launched in March of 2016. So that product was actually pretty new when we taped.
March of 2016, and you just taped, so it was very brief period of time. And did you guys talk about biohacking? That's the correct term?
Yeah. So our overarching theme of NutriBox is bringing the insights and technologies of biohacking to the mainstream. And that's what biohacking is really treating the human body as if an engineer were looking at the human system and how we can optimize that. Right. So in simple terms, how can we enhance our mental performance, our physical performance using engineering methods?
Interesting.
And so was your experience on Shark Tank what you had pictured? Did it go a little differently than planned?
I think that to keep in mind, we were on set taping for 90 minutes. And what was shown on TV was, 10 minutes or less. So I think the experience was, I think when you watch the TV show, it's pretty linear in how the story is portrayed when it's edited. But when you're on set, when you're talking to, 5 different sharks, the thread of conversation is very chaotic. It felt like managing a group of school children where, you guys are very polite and asking one question at a time, but the sharks are just kind of like interrupting each other, interrupting us, interrupting everyone. So
is there any kind of biohacking, way to solve a problem like that?
I think it's just running frame on the situation. I think just gotta be able to present and tell the story and control the audience in a lot of ways, right? If the classroom is not necessarily, keen on being patient to listen to, every single response, then you either get run over or you run over the sharks. And I mean, that's just the deal. That's part of the game.
I think that's an interesting point that you made about the sharks speaking over each other, because we've spoken with a lot of entrepreneurs over the years, but you're the first person actually who's mentioned that aspect of it, and how also intimidating and confusing it can be about who do you respond to when you have 5 people shouting questions at you at the same time.
Yeah. I think part of the game is like everyone's competing for sound bites. If you look at the pitch as one game, right? Like, we're backed by some of the biggest venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. Andreessen Horowitz has backed Facebook, has backed Airbnb, and we've, that's sort of one game to play. And another game to play is the TV game, right? Like Shark Tank is a TV show built for mainstream American TV consumption. And I think if I could change anything about that, it's really realizing I think we kind of explicitly all kind of know that there's 2 different games to be played, but just like really, really understanding that.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, that is.
So you're looking to get, if I can get the investment, get the investor on board, that's one thing. But then at the same time, I'm competing for those sound bites, and I've got to prepare for that so that the mass consumption of it works my way as well.
Right. And I think even the judges or the sharks think the same way too, right? Like, if you really think about, they have to compete to be like the coolest shark in a lot of ways, right? So I think even on that perspective, you can see that the sharks themselves are trying to like build up their own persona and have their points be like the salient point. They want to be the smartest sounding person on the panel. Right. So a lot of like just different meta games or overarching. That wasn't an explicit game of like, hey, entrepreneurs pitching a panel of investors that I thought was interesting that isn't necessarily obvious when you watch, the TV program on Friday.
For sure.
And I think also that even sometimes working in the media and even knowing cognitively that reality shows are not real, you still get so caught up in watching them that it's hard to even remember that in the moment.
Right.
So I think that's just a really great point about how they are all competing for this persona that is part of it. So you had also pitched to a lot of other venture capitalists. So how would you say the experience was similar, and how is it different to other presentations that you've done?
That's a good question. It's similar in some ways in the sense that, these are accomplished business people, right? I mean, they've clearly have a track record of being successful. And usually venture capitalists, if you are theoretically a good investor, you probably have some sort of business success. So I think you're talking to people. I think, honestly, though, I think a lot of it was very different in the sense that usually investors are more prepared. I think on Shark Tank, it's pretty cold in the sense that, like, and I think our business is somewhat more complicated than a typical Shark Tank company, right? Like most Shark Tank companies are single products. They haven't really raised that much money or don't have really significant revenues. We were a multi-million revenue business by the time we had pitched on Shark Tank. And I think it's a little bit constrained in the sense that you have, a short time to like be uninterrupted and tell your story. And then it goes into this sort of chaotic spin room where everyone's, throwing questions at you. And in Silicon Valley, typically in a VC meeting, obviously, these venture capitalists aren't like, total sheep, but, you usually have time to really talk and present the whole thesis of all the data before you're, sort of thrown into a bunch of question and answers.
Right. It's almost because there's that, if they can create, if there's shock value to something that's said, they'll go for the shock value sometimes. And I would expect that just wouldn't happen in a VC meeting. Nobody's trying to one up the next guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a trying to search for the truth of what's important in the business. I think, which is kind of funny. In an investment meeting, people care a lot about the financials, right? Like exactly how many revenues, exactly what the margins are, exactly what the growth is. If you look at what was aired on our episode, it was none of that was really covered, even though what we talked about that in that pitch. And I think it's just interesting, like what is interesting and what is not.
Yeah,
right?
they were focusing
in Wall Street. It's just like I don't care about like the story. I don't care about the product. Just give me the numbers. While I think on Shark Tank is very much like the story, the products, the dramatic side of business, which is also very important too. Okay. I think it's just interesting how it's very much differently weighted.
Being somebody who's running a company here that's done well, obviously we're already doing multi-millions. Was the Shark Tank bump of being on the show? You said there was a spike. Was it really relevant for you?
It was nice in terms of that specific weekend. Like we aired on Friday. That weekend was a big pop. So a typical weekend, we ran the numbers. The weekend the same month before, we had 6 times more orders that weekend versus the same weekend a month ago. So obviously a huge spike in volume.
But that comes and goes, yeah.
Just new orders, which is awesome.
Yeah, that comes and goes. So it's like the sustainable, what you got there for the model. What have you guys done this year in revenue?
This year is in like in 8 days.
Yeah, so far.
The new year.
Just over the past year.
Give us your numbers and they better be good.
See, they just try to outshine me, the two ladies.
Call us Barbara and Lori.
For the year of 2016, I mean, we've grown a lot since we first started. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think every year we've grown 300 to 400% year over year.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, in 2016 we did, multiple single-digit millions. Yep.
Great.
Nice.
Well, I know we've taken up some of your time. I think Constance has one last question, and then we will let you go. And
Let me see the
I'll hold
cubes.
up. We've got the chewable cubes here, so we'll hold up the box everyone can see also, and I'll pass them on over while Constance asks.
Speaking of, and because this is a biohacking, there's interest in this, and I know growing interest among kind of the mainstream. So you're doing pitches. You obviously have gotten venture capitalists on board. You've been on Shark Tank. What are some ways that, some pitching tips that you might have, or ways that you're able to keep very calm and focused when you're on something like Shark Tank, or whether you're in front of some very big potential investors? Anything that we could take away and share with our audience?
I'm sorry, we've got Chris over here who's rustling into the product. He's opening it up.
The kid with the popcorn.
Yeah, Constance is trying to ask a question, and there's
Russell.
Russell.
If you want to save, you can have some good cubes. I think the most important thing to keep in mind is to remember that you're the smartest person about your business.
Wow.
Like you built the business from scratch. You understand your customers, and you shouldn't be shook or scared, even of other people's reputations, right? Like if you really think you're the best CEO or the best founder in that space, then no one should be able to blow your mind about your space in 30 or 60 minutes or however long the pitch is. I think from that confidence stems a lot of the downstream effects, right? I think, some other points or tips are, I think people can only really remember like 3 good points in a conversation. So like really drill down what those, and understand what those 3 key things are. And if you really are looking to raise from investors, you have to explain why you're going to make them a lot of money, right? Like a lot of people want to be nice or like the space or like the mission. But at the end of the day, investors are looking at return on capital. So having a very clear answer why you're going to make them a lot of money is an important part of that 3 point sort of framework to think about presenting.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just got to say, these cubes are really cool. I like them because I'm a coffee drinker. And, eating, that's got 50 milligrams of caffeine. So it's about half a cup of coffee in a singular cube, which is cool because a whole cup of coffee is going to mess with the digestion. You drink, seriously, if you drink too much coffee in the morning or, you get to spend the day in the toilet or whatever. This is
my God.
I'm just saying, you avoid all of that type of stuff when you just want that caffeine hit. And then I take it that it's the vitamin B12 and the vitamin B6 that kind of gives because you say it gives you the jolt of the caffeine, but the relaxation of a Zen monk, right?
Yeah, specifically, and there's L-theanine, which is an amino acid found in green tea. So it's sort of like a green tea extract. So that's why anecdotally, when you drink tea, you're not tea has caffeine in it. And that's why when you drink tea, you're not as jittery as when you drink black coffee. Wow. There's actually clinical research that shows that a specific ratio of L-theanine to caffeine performs better in terms of short-term memory and reaction time compared to caffeine alone.
Really?
So there's actually good body of clinical data behind the exact formulation behind it.
Yeah, no, that sounds real legit. And they kind of shook you about that, huh? Mark, I think Mark kind of shook you about that, about the science, or not really?
No, I think
he didn't give you a hard time?
I was scared about that. And I
don't mean you, but I mean,
they gave us a lot of credit around the science. I think given the team that we do have, we have 4 MD/MD PhDs on the core science team, with our we're actually running our own clinical trials. So you can actually go to clinicaltrials.gov and track the progress of one of our clinical trials. So I think a lot of that content we talked about, but didn't come up in the show. But yeah, I think in terms of like Cuban, I mean, I think, I watched a lot of his previous episodes. He's nasty to some of these entrepreneurs talking about like pseudoscience-y stuff.
Exactly.
And I was prepared for that. And I think he gave us a lot of credit.
Did you watch the episode with the? Did you watch the episode with the little jolter watch that jolts you if you do a behavior you don't want to do?
Yes.
I ripped them apart.
Like, okay, that's like the worst case scenario, that we get called like scammers or hucksters on national TV.
Right.
So we were protected against that downside case. So we were quite prepared around that. But yeah, that didn't come up.
That's cool.
So.
Awesome.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Geoffrey, for joining us tonight. Thanks for sending the Go Cubes and sharing your experience. So have a great rest of your evening.
Awesome. Good night.
Good night.
Bye, JW.
Well, that was a great experience. Always great hearing from one of the entrepreneurs on the show. And so moving right into the current episode, we have PDX Pet Design, which I know we're eager to talk about. Tara and Jason, $300,000 for 15%. Now, they had 2 products. They had Shrew, which is sort of a ball with a tail that moves, but then they also had the Licky Brush, because everyone wants to lick their cats. So I kind of feel like we just sort of need to skip to the end. They had no deal. I feel like some of that is self-explanatory, but what did you think when they pulled out the brush and started licking their cat?
A sign of the times. I've been warning people on this show and elsewhere. It's a sign of the times.
I heard if you lick toads, there's like some sort of an effect.
They turn into a prince?
No! You know what, though? You know what I thought when they licked the cats with this big tongue? I thought of you. I swear to God, what did you almost let some foul language come out of there.
I nearly was not safe for TV here. What? Well, I don't even know where to go with that.
I totally thought of you.
Never lick my cat.
You do weird shit like that all the time. Like,
this is a family program.
Chris Howard might not be with us next week.
Someone's going to put a note in your file.
Oh, come now.
There's going to be a note here.
It's 10 o'clock at night.
I would
Kids are
never
asleep.
lick my cat. People are listening anytime. I would never lick my cat. I pet my cat. I sleep with my cat. I hug my cat. I am a crazy cat owner who dresses my cat up for Christmas.
Listen to this. This is the type
but
of...
I wouldn't lick my cat.
You dress them up for Christmas, but you wouldn't lick them.
Tea parties with your cat?
No.
So even Zoe has limits.
Even Zoe has limits.
Is his name Tobias?
Wait, what?
You lost me too.
Well, there's basically a test that you could find out. Guys are supposed to ask a girl if they suspect that she's like a crazy cat lady. They ask the name of the cat, and if it's something like Heather Jane Elizabeth V, then she's a crazy cat lady. So I was going with Tobias.
What's the name of your cat, Zoe?
I have 2 cats. I have Cooper and Sumi.
She's fine.
Sumi means ink in Japanese.
Right. If it was Tobias Davis Jr. the 8th,
Cooper and Sumi?
Those are just regular cat names. That's like Rex. That's like...
Not quite, but okay.
I have to also say that this shrew, this ball with a tail, I had something very similar, and it did not cost $119.
Right. So it's not $1.19, Zoe.
I was thinking of that. But
$119.
For anyone who's wondering why Constance is teasing me, it's because earlier this season there was a shake and warm your butter thing that I couldn't understand was over $100 because it boggled my mind that someone would pay that much for a butter warmer.
You're explaining it as if there was a realistic reason why you would think that it would be priced at what did she say?
$1.49. $1.49. You drive a hard bargain.
What is the realistic reason
Ask
you would pay
Fantasy Stats.
Stainless steel, baby?
Fantasy Stats was there, and Fantasy Stats Gurus knows the truth.
Fantasy Stats, who is in the chat with us, wants to know: do I brush my cat without
your tongue?
Without my tongue. Well, he says, do you brush your cat without it in your mouth? So I do not brush my cats very often. because I guess I'm not a great pet owner, but I could see using that tongue as just a brush, but not in my mouth.
Well, here's the thing. If you haven't seen the episode, you stick this big tongue over your tongue, and it's got brush things on it, and you lick your cat so you can take part in the cat licking.
Oh my god.
Like a cat would clean themselves.
So your cat prays to be killed by an eagle to get away from the demented house of horrors that he lives in.
The person's licking me, man. I'm running away from home.
Right. So, I'm not really sure that we have much to add to the discussion of this product other than laughter, at least from this end of the table. Do you guys have anything
I thought it was
to add?
ridiculous.
Well, they had, they were asking for $300,000 for 15%, and a few of the panelists, the sharks, said that they're asking too much. It's too early to be asking that much, and that was the reason for the nay. I think that was.
I like the fact that they say too early, because what they're saying is you have not given us any proof of concept. You have not sold anything. You have no sales to back up what you're doing. So that's a good way to put it. It's too early.
Although it was interesting, they said that Shrew had sold about $250,000 worth. That Licky Brush, $52,000 worth, and their projected sales, I believe, for this year were $180,000. So, I mean, not bad.
No.
It's still too early for the licky thing.
Certainly shocking. I'm actually shocked that people spent that much, because mine didn't have a computer chip in the ball with the tail, but it cost probably like $7.99, not $119 plus tax.
Are you sure it was $7.99? Or $7.99?
$799.
Yeah, they charged Zoe's card for a little more than she realized. But no, but what I would say is that the licky thing, there is you look at that, is there a market for that just as a gag gift?
As a gag gift.
Seriously, because when they pulled it out, all of the sharks really thought that they were joking.
Yes.
They got a real honest laugh, and they're like, "You're joking, right?
Yeah.
Come on, you're joking." It would have been funny if it was just a joke.
I thought they were just trying to get on the show also, and thought it was a pure joke until they said their sales, which showed that they were more legit than
50,000.
a pure joke. But they also they said that they had, for the brush, it retails at $25, but it's only on pre-order right now, so $19 if you pre-order.
Right.
I don't think I'd spend $19 on a gag gift. I mean, we talked about this. We had like potato parcel earlier this season. There have been some great gag gifts, and I keep coming back to it, so I feel like I need to order a potato parcel because I'm kind of in love. I talk about it all the time. But $19 for a tongue brush?
No, it doesn't brush your tongue. It brushes your cat with your tongue.
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
You know that hair would get in your mouth.
You'd get all these hairballs like cats.
Yeah.
Like, you'd be like,
dust.
That's the least of the issues.
Yes.
I just my mind wants to explode over this, because also my cat sits on my lap. I would have to hold my cat up to my mouth, otherwise you're contorted.
And you know what's
and
going to happen.
which side of the cat do you lick? How do you do it? It came to mind that there might be some stores where these would actually sell like wildfire, but it wouldn't be for cats. So it's like, see. You thought it too.
I didn't think it until you said it, but it is.
Speaking of not having to go to the store, there's Basic Outfitters.
The next one.
So no deal. I think, are we all unanimous? We're all out. No deal. Do we have a tank takeaway? Maybe don't make your product a joke?
Don't make your product a joke. It was just a little weird. Like, I thought they got a little bit weird into it. But no, I think that the thing we can say, though, is we're glad that those two found each other as well.
Absolutely. I always like when people find each other.
Tara and Jason, nice couple.
You know what? Takeaway could be make the offer lower, because if they had come in and said $50,000, I think they would have gotten somebody in with them.
Yes. Okay, I don't know about they would have necessarily. I think there would have been other excuses, but we don't know.
By the way, this is the Latte Go Cube. I quite like this.
Did you?
Yeah, I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, I tried mine. It tasted like coffee. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so Basic Outfitters, we had Laura and Michael. They were asking $125,000 for 10%. This was kind of interesting. I don't know. So basically, you could refill your drawer. It costs them $25.90. It retails for $60. And basically, this is for guys who need to replace things like underwear, socks, undershirts. But they don't want to go to the store and have to go to 3-4 different sections to pick them out. Plus, things are expensive. So you can order and customize for up to 17 basics in a high quality. So, what did you guys think? Would you order a Basic Outfitters drawer?
I thought it was a great idea, fabulous idea, and the price, again, the retail is $60. I mean, there's a little give and take depending on what drawer you order, but $500,000 this year, I don't know.
That was the sales? Oh, projected sales.
Well, they launched 10 months ago. They had
Yeah.
351,000 in sales since
Yeah, that was
then.
impressive for 10 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have 250,000 of their own money invested. 750,000 was raised on $1 million valuation with just the concept.
Right.
Therein
But they
lies the
do
rub.
have nearly $400,000 worth of inventory.
Yeah, exactly. And they were looking for 10%, 125,000 for 10%.
Yeah.
So people weren't coming in with crazy asks tonight, like, I'm
Well-
looking for $2 million and I'm going to give you 2%,
Right.
where they just start
Yeah.
cracking up.
Right.
But this one had some craziness to it that you
Yeah.
knew the moment they said
Yes.
that we have 20%.
25%.
The people pitching only had 25% equity in the company.
Yes.
They only
and they
owed
just started.
Right.
And have you noticed that's been a consistent problem this season that I feel like I don't
Has it?
remember from the past that we've seen so many times where the entrepreneurs have given away so much of their equity.
Really? Yeah, I remember one or two that were like that.
It just
this
feels like a
one's
lot to me.
ridiculous.
Right, so that means that they only owe 25% of their company. So they've given the rest away,
Right.
75%
They
of it.
sold 75% before they started, which means they have nothing to negotiate with. They have nothing to make a deal with. They have, that was like the moment you heard that, it was.
It was sad, and
Yeah.
what's weird? At the end, Lori did offer a deal. She did offer 125,000 for 20% instead of the 10%.
Taken from the investors who they don't have the right to negotiate for, but they were saying, well, yes, we kind of do. No, they don't. If they did, they'd be able to say, we're coming in here on part of our the part of our investors. We've been authorized to give X amount of equity.
Right.
They didn't have
Exactly.
that was BS. But the one thing I'll say about Kevin is, he really shined here because thank God for him, he's the one who thought of that deal when nobody else on the panel would. And they couldn't close the deal right there, but at least he said, you know what, I'll take it. I'll take 25%, but it's got to come out of your partners that you raised from.
Right.
Right.
Because
And
that's
then
the only place they could go.
You're right. And then it was Lori who said basically that she would match the deal.
Yeah.
And she did
Yeah.
agree to go to 20. They had countered, though, at 15. So they seem to think that they would have some flexibility with their investors, presumably because of the Shark Tank bump. But exactly, yeah, I don't think they were going to get that far. I think they were hoping...
They might, but I mean, who the hell is going to invest in a
It
might?
got messy.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
got
it was-
messy
yeah.
for Lori. And that's the thing that we're looking at. We just were, of course, talking to Mr. Woo from NutriBox, who talks about, how this is edited for television. We have to understand we are watching a television show. But it was very sad. And even Lori
Because you
said-
can see how invested they were in personally.
And it's a great concept, and they have a great. Did you see their cost is really low? And they said
It was amazing, the cost of goods sold. all of that.
and they looked quality products as well. There was a softness.
You say it was sad. The sad part
Right.
was that they didn't get it at the end. They walked out of there. Were you going to say that?
Well, right. It was sad, and because they didn't own that much of the company. But Lori goes, "This kind of makes me sick, and this is so weird. I felt kind of sick too, which is weird."
But I wasn't sick for the investors. I was sick for the people that had invested. I was sick for the people because they walked
same
off.
here,
No, the two, but they walked
the
off.
entrepreneurs.
And they still didn't get it. They said,
right.
we're proud that we gave the 75% away.
okay.
And that's the worst thing, that they can walk away from that experience thinking.
Yeah.
These
No, I
sharks
agree.
were like saying, wake up, you can't do business that way. And they walked off saying, we're proud that we're doing business this way. That's the sad part.
It was sad, and
That's
this is
The
sad
whole
part.
thing was
Yeah.
sad, quite frankly.
is giving away too much of the store, and this is something we've seen a little, and it's like such a cautionary tale. We know we have entrepreneurs that watch us, and if there's one thing that we could all stress over and over again is just not doing that.
Yeah. So I think that's our takeaway. So, Constance, would you be in or out?
Gosh, not with only this little amount of equity in the founding partners. So no,
Yeah.
but I love the concept, and I think it's a great concept.
Chris?
Yeah, I would be, not only would I be out, I would give a piece of advice, and that is that they shouldn't be pitching anybody, let alone on Shark Tank, unless they were able to know in advance. And I guess that's the takeaway. That's the thing to learn, is know in advance from your investors that I get to take from your pool 25%, and that's what I'm pitching.
Right.
That would be my
Because we're
takeaway.
bringing
But I'm
Lori
out.
in, who's going
Right.
to, advance.
Yeah,
us,
if you're gonna
help
do
us all
something
make
with it.
money. So.
Absolutely. I agree that I would be out, I think, for a few different reasons. Just didn't love it, but definitely the equity was a huge issue. So moving on, we've got Victory Coffee. We had Cade and Betty B, $250,000 for 20%. The really cool thing here, I think, is that Cade is a former Navy SEAL and sniper. And I don't know if you guys noticed the big dramatic music underneath of his pitch. Like they clearly were playing that up. It was really great. but basically what this is coffee that he is sourcing from someone. So he does not have a new way to make coffee or a new way to grow coffee beans, but these are sourced coffee beans, and his concept is that they are being sold by veterans. He did not wind up with a deal. However, he made about $30,000 in 8 months. He said, yeah. So with essentially no marketing, he made the $30,000 in 8 months.
And this was a great example, I thought, of an epic pitch. Even though he didn't get a deal, and I think he might be better for it in the end, but this was an epic pitch. It was very intense at the beginning. He had it crafted very well, and he didn't come out and talk in a very personal way. He talked about the mission. He talked about things that were very compelling. He was a little funny at times, but a really, really compelling pitch. And I could see, they cut away obviously to the different sharks, and you could see how that they were very, very interested. He didn't, we talk about coming in with the story a lot, right? He did a story that wasn't like, hi, this is me and my feelings and I think. It was very compelling, kind of a pitch that really could draw.
So you like the story, you like the human element.
But it wasn't so much like poor me, because
I think strong.
Right. It was very strong, and everything that he talked about all went back to the basic idea of his product.
But the underlying problem with his pitch was that he did not. There was no business to it. He was saying, "Hey, the country is going to get behind this because the country's going to." But there was no business, there was no distribution, there was no real sales at all to really speak about, other than a little private home business that somebody's running that's not going to really build up to anything. So there was no major sales, there was no marketing, there was no plan for sales that was a legit plan where you go, boy, that's going to work. So it was missing the nuts and bolts of what makes a real pitch work. The branding was good, and that's why all the sharks said, you have a marketing company. You're marketing this brand that you have, a victory. Where you want people to stand up for the country and get behind it. Okay, but where's your sales? Where's your distribution? Where's the marketing? How's it work?
Well, in that case, would you think that his staying the course, he has $30,000 in sales in 8 months, and it's direct to consumer, no advertising. Do you think kind of just staying the course, being a one-man band, keeping it simple and making a nice living?
No, I think he really needs a real marketing plan and a real sales and distribution plan. It's like, what are you going to do? If you're going to distribute online, then you need, there's things that go with that. You've got creative, compelling copy that then leads into, it's just like, what is it? And then you monetize it, you check it, you measure it, and you go, okay, we know that when we spend $1 in advertising, that equates to X amount of sales, and then you build up your track record, and you go, look at this, shit, if we just throw $10,000 more at that, we're going to be rich.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like that was missing from the pitch for me.
I agree. I think that they needed he needed more of a plan. So am I correct that we're all unanimous? Pretty much would be out for various reasons. But
I'd be in.
Oh, okay.
You're in?
We've got one in each.
I love. There's a competitor is Bulletproof Coffee. It's veteran owned and operated.
I love
very
Bulletproof.
Dear to my heart, and I love investing and supporting coffee.
Bulletproof coffee.
Yeah, it's
Except this is about Victory Coffee.
Right, Victory Coffee, which I'm going to go check out actually, because I love to do anything that helps and supports people that have protected me.
So you're in?
I think you'll have to then come back, tell us how that is.
But she teaches branding. She loved the brand.
And so
I love the brand, so I'm
let's
signing on to what they're saying. I'm like voting. I'm saying, you know what I mean? It's the idea of the brand.
So we'll find out about the brand later, and let's hear about how the brand maybe went for naturally perfect dolls. We had Jason and Angelica asking for $200,000 in exchange for 20%, and what they had basically realized was that they had young girls were coming home and saying, they had a daughter say she would never be beautiful because she doesn't look like any of the dolls in the store, basically the blonde-haired, blue-eyed dolls, and so they wanted to preach self-acceptance and diversity and that you can be anything. So they created a line of dolls that were actually pulled from their own features and their own children's features to make a diverse line of dolls. And the dolls retail for $85. It cost them $35. They said it was a small run, so basically that's why the cost is high. So what did you guys think? I'm gonna jump in then because I loved these dolls.
I'm gonna jump in then. What'd you think? I'm gonna jump in then.
Weren't they beautiful?
They were beautiful dolls, and I love dolls anyway. Like, I'm such a girly girl. I love that. I thought they were fantastic.
I love them too. I thought they were beautiful, beautiful dolls. You know, the little faces. She says they're not the perfect face. They're beautiful faces.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
The one that they modeled after her and her daughter.
Yeah,
it was a
the
beautiful
Angelica,
face. Angelica. Yeah.
And it's sold out very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, it's direct to consumer, so that's how they've been.
I really liked it. I think that, and I was with the Sharks and thinking that, yes, do direct to consumer. Try to fight to get on the store shelves is a totally different battle. You're doing
Right.
well there. Keep it there. Master that. And then there's always the chance of going retail afterwards. But I mean, online marketing is a quick way to bolstering the bank account.
And certainly they had said that they had heard from large box stores there was interest, but they needed to get their price down to $35 to $40.
Yeah.
Which I actually found interesting because $35 to $40 is not a high-end doll. That's kind of an average doll price.
Right.
So I was surprised that the stores would say they needed to actually be that low.
Well, but I mean, is it going to be a high-end market that's going to buy them? You know, who is it that's going to buy? And maybe it will be. I don't know.
I guess I'm just thinking
Retail?
of like American Girl. I feel like, excuse me, those dolls are sort of like the standard now. Like when I was little, it was the Cabbage Patch dolls that were like the really expensive high-end dolls. So now it's
Right.
American Girl
Okay,
dolls,
yeah, you
which
get a
I
point.
think range for well over $100. But then like the knockoff ones are still in like the $50 to $60 range. So at 85, they're high, but they're not.
When I heard the price
Abnormal
85, I
either.
was like, son of a gun, 85 for a doll?
Yeah, it's a lot.
But
Yeah, I
to
thought
knock
it
down
was a
to
lot.
35 to me seemed low. I felt like then they could be in like a $60 range and still be in line with.
Right.
Well, for some reason, though, it seemed to be the retail outlets that were telling them that they
Right.
had to get it down to that. So they must know
Yes,
what
there
they're
must.
talking
Yes,
about. Yeah.
I'm saying I am
Yeah.
surprised that they wouldn't be okay with a slightly higher.
Right, I hear what you're
cost,
saying.
that's all.
Yeah. I thought the dolls were beautiful. They were neat. I loved the
Yeah.
concept. I liked that they were different sizes, different
Yeah.
heights,
Yeah.
different. And that's really, really
Yeah.
cool. You know, if they could build in some sort of gamification concept around it, where you know, like with the kids with the little video games and stuff, you have to buy all the pieces and get all the things. If you could have to have some sort of an engagement concept where you wanted to get more than just one of the dolls, you wanted to get multiple
Right.
dolls to be cool. You know, I think that would be neat.
I think so too.
I thought they were fantastic. So Damon, well, it was interesting the offers they got. So Robert was out. He thought it would be an uphill battle. Lori also out. She was concerned because Mattel just came out with a big competition there with diverse dolls. Kevin said that he was one of Mattel's largest shareholders, which I thought was very interesting. So he said he's sort of been there, done that. He's out. Mark said that he thought they should get on Project Green, which actually I wasn't familiar with. That he thought that the dolls, getting them in stores was too hard and that their concept was a little bit too scattered. So Damon says he has 3 daughters and he struggles because he was concerned with their retail goal. And basically they had said that one of their big goals is to be in stores because they want girls like their daughters to be able to walk down those store aisles and see girls or dolls that look like them. So he said he didn't love their retail goal, but he would do it the $200,000, but for 33 1/3. He wanted to make them all equal partners. They countered at 25%, and he asked, I really liked it, like, why don't you want me as a partner?
Right?
And so they did counter again. They said that they just really think that they could grow the company. So it was an interesting offer that they wound up agreeing to. They did make a deal with Damon. So 30% for each of them, and then they took that last 10% and said that they would donate it to charity. So in the end, they are all 3 equal partners with 10% of the dolls.
I thought
going
it
to
was
charity.
neat that Damon took the time to go through the negotiation. He really wanted to question what was behind their ask, because if they were just kind of nickeling and diming him for a percentage here rather than saying, hey, we're lucky to have you, that'd kind of piss him off, I think. But the fact that they were mission driven and purpose driven is why he made the offer of giving 10% to charity. And so it was kind of a beautiful offer to match the beauty of what was happening there, because they want to make revenue, but it's really more about the vision of getting these dolls out to these girls and little boys like me.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jason Sweeney, it was a very important point that he talked about wanting to make money and the business to do well. And because I think there was a little bit of a concern because they were talking so much, particularly Angelica was talking so much about, this vision and all of that. And I think it got the investors a little, is this about making money or is this about your message? And it was when I noticed Jason mentioned that really Damon talked, well, okay, you're really
explained it well.
Yeah. And so I think that was really
A key point, yes,
Yeah.
because it's always
That they were both.
mission and money have to be aligned in a way where you get
right.
that they both come together.
And 10% is actually a really large amount to donate to charity. I mean, there are lots of companies that donate, like Target, I think, does, Amazon does.
Yeah.
So 10% is a large amount. So I was
lot
kind
of
of surprised
equity.
by that. That is
I
a
was
big
too.
percentage. And I also thought,
Equity, yeah.
and I don't know, I almost hate to say it, I think they got lucky that Damon was on the panel because, let's face it, he had a vested interest. Like he said, he has 3 girls who are in that position. He said they're biracial. They want those dolls. And I'm wondering if Damon hadn't been there, if they would have wound up with a doll. Because I was actually really surprised the others bowed out. I thought
Right.
there would be a deal.
Right. I think it's like just what they talked about. It's just a tough business, and then Mattel
Right.
coming in, and a lot of bigger companies trying this as well.
You know what? I would have been in on this one. So yeah, I think it was because what they really needed was the money. They had already done the legwork. They had already checked out that they could get it, the same doll reproduced for $10, $11, which is utterly ridiculous. Right now, it's retailing for $85.
Right.
I mean, imagine if you could keep the price at $85 when you got it down to $10.
Exactly, yeah.
It's so definitely. Oh, and I just have a little correction. I was talking about a veteran-owned coffee company, and I mentioned Bulletproof. That was a mistake. I meant Black Rifle Coffee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you cleared that up for anyone who is going and looking.
Right. So before you said hate mail, Black Rifle Coffee.
So
And
we might be
victory.
all, I don't know, are we all unanimous on this one? Are you guys in or out?
I'm in.
Out.
Oh, we're not unanimous. I'm totally in. I love these dolls and I want one. I totally want one. We'll have to reach out to Jason and Angelica. Maybe they can Skype in with us
Oh, that'd be
and
cool.
tell us about their
Yeah.
experience. So we'll see about
Yeah.
that. So they did get a deal. So we do have a quick update. Drain Strain from season 6. They had done a deal, $110,000 for 10%. It was
Yes.
just a prototype when they were on Shark Tank, and now this is the kind of the coolest product, you guys, and I really want one. So it's basically essentially it's a cup that you put in your drain to catch things like your hair so that it doesn't stop up your drain, and every so often you can just pull it out, clean it out, and put it right back. I loved it. I'm totally on board. They're in Lowe's and Home Depot now. They've made $500,000 in 3 months.
3 months.
Oh my God.
3
That's
months.
amazing.
They're in 12,000 Home Depot stores, and
Yes.
they're going to be
1,200.
1,200, and in 500 Lowe's. Yeah. $12 million. And Zoe and I were actually, when we saw that on screen, it was funny. We both were just like eyeing it, and we thought the same thing. I have to have that. I want to go get that. I
I
want
do
it.
too,
I don't even
absolutely.
have a problem. I mean, my hair is a problem, but
My hair is a problem. I'm always
I-
stopping up the drain.
same here.
Always.
Yeah.
And you know what? I didn't write it down, but let's give a shout out to the shark. Who was the shark who did their deal with them? And I'm even drawing a blank. But I think
Robert.
Robert.
Oh, Robert?
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's give Robert his due shout out there.
Yeah,
So
Nishad
this
was the entrepreneur. Great
Yes.
story.
So this has been great. It's so nice to be back, and we've got another great episode coming up next week. Constance, where can everyone find you?
Yeah, Constance Dunn at Instagram and Twitter.
All right. Chris Howard, reach out at Chris Howard Live on Twitter as well as Instagram. And
I'm Zoe Hewitt. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zoe Said What. That's Zoe Said What. You can also find me on YouTube at Zoe Hewitt Hosting, where I do a weekly movie analysis show. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's Shark Tank After Show. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.